I'm not nothing special. All I am is a guy from South London who's done pretty well for himself, kept it very, very real, still keeping it very, very real. When you're trying to be a boxer, you go in there, Mike Tyson, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, it's war. I think in life you've got to lose before you win, and to take a beating, to know about hardship. Got sectioned 3 times. It was one of the worst times of my life. I don't think it was very, very fair, but sometimes life ain't fair. Religion is a very sweet, sweet thing, but a lot of people may be getting too entwined with religion. We need to know that we're here on borrowed time. Delete a lot of the negativity and bring some love. It'll get worse before it gets better, but as long I can just fly the flag for the human beings and the people that are suffering out there where I haven't got a chance to say, I will do it until I die.
They say that the human race is doomed, that we have lost touch with our true nature, that the media has corrupted us, and that the planet has no future. I disagree. I believe that humanity is full of hope, and that our salvation lies within each one of us. My name is Brian Rose, and my job is to listen, the oldest method of learning known to man. Each week I seek out individuals that are changing the world, people who are living and thinking in a different way. Their stories will challenge your beliefs, make you question your choices, and perhaps inspire you to change. I never planned on doing any of this, but now I can't stop. Join me on this mission and make humanity something we can all be proud of.
When it comes to British boxing, Frank Bruno is a true legend. 40 wins under his belt, fought Mike Tyson twice, and fought Lennox Lewis for the belt. He is known as a pure gentleman in the sport of boxing in this country, but his story doesn't stop there. Frank was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and 3 times was forcibly admitted to mental institutions. Inside, he was giving heavy pharmaceutical drugs, which drove him nearly to the edge. And in his new book, he talks all about that, and he also talks about the pharmaceutical drugs that you and I use to control our mental state and how we must be much more careful with what we put into our bodies. Frank is now medication-free, and he's very proud of it. I know you're gonna enjoy this episode. He is just such a cool guy. I love spending time with him. He's a natural, he's a real dude, so sit back and enjoy. And inside the London Real Academy, we're kicking off yet another business accelerator. 8 weeks, we turn your passion into a revenue-generating business. We've graduated over 500 people in 76 countries around the world. So check it out, londonreal.tv/academy. And here's a little more information about it.
London Real doesn't stop when the conversation ends. You see, that's when we get started. Because everything begins with a thought, and then comes the action. The London Real Academy is our global transformation platform. Here we bring together thousands of students from over 75 countries. Whether you want to build a profitable business from your passion, or learn to speak to inspire, or broadcast yourself with your very own podcast, or accelerate your life to become a high-performance person, we have the online accountability course and personal mentoring program that will make your dream a reality. Join us, and we'll take your life to the next level, together. Our next accelerator course is starting soon. This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Frank Bruno, the former British heavyweight world champion boxer. Known for your incredible punching power, you have a total of 40 wins under your belt, 38 by way of knockout. You fought Lennox Lewis for the title and had 2 epic bouts with Mike Tyson, the second one ending your career. You're one of the most loved and recognizable boxers in Britain, and your life and struggles with mental health have been highly publicized by the media. In your new book, Let Me Be Frank, you open up about living with bipolar disorder in the hope of taking away some of the stigma attached to this illness. Frank, welcome to London Real.
Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you.
It's amazing having you here.
Cheers.
What's it like to come back to London? I know you grew up here, but I know you spent a lot of time in the countryside.
Yeah.
And how much has this city changed since you were a kid here?
I think the city is one of the best cities in the world, you know what I mean? But all what's going on around the world at the moment, everybody's on edge and getting jumpy. But London's a nice place, but I like the country. I'm a countryman. I like the fresh air, the fields and whatever. But it's a nice place, London, but it's very, not jumpy, but all the different things what happened in 2017, it just makes people red alert.
Yeah, you're big on children having respect for their elders. And I was wondering, what were you like as a kid in South London? Were you the one that had respect for their elders, or did you kind of learn that over time?
I didn't have no choice, and I was brought up with, I had 3 sisters and 2 brothers. And I had a brother that watched my back all the time, but he taught me a lot of discipline, focus and manners. But I had a serious dad who was very, very generous to me, but he did not allow me to be disrespectful, didn't have manners. My mum was a very, very powerful lady. She was a Pentecostal preacher, and she brought me up very, very well. And unfortunate for me, I got sent to a borstal when I was about 12, and that's the best thing that could have ever happened to me, was being sent to that borstal, because it taught me about manners, discipline and focus, and how to look after yourself.
Okay, why did you get sent there?
I was hanging around with the wrong sort of like people, and I think if I would have stuck hanging around with them people, I might not have been here now today, or I might have been in and out of prison. But I haven't got a criminal record, but I was fascinated with bad guys and people hanging around, but my brother kept them away from me. But my mum warned me, if I don't behave myself and pull my socks up or whatever, I will be sent to a borstal. But I got expelled from my primary school, which I'm not very, very, very proud of it. But when I got expelled, she warned me, and then she took me up to London to see some people, and I got cast away to Sussex. But a good thing about it, the head teacher, Mr. Irwin, I'm in contact with him and some of the pupils from the school, and they're helping me with my charity, the Frank Bruno Foundation. And the teacher, Mr. Irwin, was one of the most nicest, strictest, and very, very knowledgeable guy of structuring your life around and advising you and helping you. But he was no nonsense sort of like guy. But not the nice thing, we're in contact now, and he's a good guy.
So 12 years old, they got you out of kind of the inner city, out to Sussex.
Yeah, Sussex,
New discipline, new environment.
Oh,
so you couldn't hang out with the gangsters anymore.
Oh no, I thought I was bad, but when I went to Oakhall boarding school, there were serious cups of tea that brought me down to earth to make me just realise, pull my socks up. That's where I just decided I wanted to be a boxer. I trained. I went to work in the old people's home with Mr. and Mrs. Champman. They looked after me, and I was cleaning floors, cleaning the chicken things, cleaning his Aston Martin out, and learning about life and discipline. And it was a good education. We went camping. We done all different things, walked the South Downs way, and learned about respect, discipline, and how to conduct yourself, look after your shoes and socks, and be in bed at a certain time. We got 3 meals a day, but you had to be on point every single day, because there was a lot of kids there with a lot of attitude.
Tough guys.
Tough, when I mean tough guys, you know what I mean? If you walked in the toilet and they had the hump, you know what I mean, you get a punch in your mouth or something like that. Or, you know, they were very, some of them had chips in their shoulder, but...
Did you take up boxing to protect yourself?
I took up boxing because I didn't realise that I was dyslexic. So I realised that I'm going to struggle with trying to be a lawyer or be a judge or be an accountant to make enough money. So the only way I could do is to take up some sort of like sport. Football, I had 2 left feet. Rugby, 12 men. You know what I mean? When you cut down the wages, 12 different checks you got to give out. So I wanted to go into boxing. I like martial arts, and I like boxing.
Okay. Martial arts. Is boxing a martial art?
Is boxing martial arts?
Yeah. I mean, you said you like martial arts. Were you fascinated with Bruce Lee?
Yeah, I was very, very fascinated with Bruce Lee. He used to be my hero, and I used to watch a lot of films. We used to, at Clapham Junction, used to go to the cinema and watch some kung fu movies and come out late thinking that you're walking home about 2-3 miles away from the Clapham Junction to Wandsworth, and you're kicking and all the moves that they used to do. Yeah, but you have little fantasies when you're young.
And so in England, though, probably boxing was the closest thing you could find to a martial art where you could be taught and trained.
I like boxing. I went down to Elsfield, John Leverton and Gary Leverton. And John Leverton, unfortunately, is not here now, but his son, Gary, and, you know what I mean, looked after me very, very well. Bill and Sir Philip Games, Freddie Ritz, and yeah, we had a good innings, you know what I mean, learning the trade.
What do you think made you a good boxer? And were you good from the start?
I wouldn't go so far as to say I was good. I was very, very determined. I was very, very fit. I was very, very focused. I was very, very on my game. You know what I mean? I wasn't no Sugar Ray Leonard or whatever, but I was like in the army, you know what I mean? I would knuckle down and I was very, very determined. Some would say I was muscle bound, some would say I was stiff or whatever, but I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to make money. I wanted to win the world championship, and I wanted to have a dream. And I had a dream, and I stuck to my guns, you know?
Okay. What did your mother, the Pentecostal preacher, think of her son going into boxing?
She wanted me to be a preacher or a lawyer or whatever, but I didn't have it in my brains to work. When you're dyslexic, sometimes you drop it and your fashion, your style is different. I didn't understand what she meant, but she didn't want me to do boxing at all. No mother wants to see their son getting beat. She came to a couple of fights, and sometimes she's in the toilet with her Bible praying rather than watch a fight. She weren't into boxing at all. But if that's what her son wanted to do, she would pray for me and go down to church, and Pastor Ramsey would drop some prayers for me that I don't get hurt or whatever. But my mum didn't want me to do boxing at all. My dad did, but my dad died when I was about 15, 14. So he didn't really see when I left school from 16. Tried a few jobs here and there. Metal polishing, work on the building site, work in Lonsdale Sports Shop in Brixton, and work in the bingo hall. And I just went straight into boxing. Just said, the money what I'm getting can't really support me too well. After I paid my mum her bill, get taxed and whatever, I decided went straight into boxing.
Was it hard losing your father?
Yeah, it was hard losing my father, because my father was my hero. You know what I mean? My father always wanted a son. When his son came along, he used to spoil me and give me a lot of different things. But if I got out of hand, he would drop some manners on me. All them beatings that he gave me put me in good stead. He told me about certain different things through life and whatever, trusting people and looking after yourself or whatever. But yeah, I missed him. I still miss him now.
Mm-hmm. And you had 3 older sisters?
3 older sisters,
okay,
yeah.
So you were the son he was waiting for,
yeah.
And boom, you came out and he spoiled you.
I was 1 full sister and 2 half sisters, right. But you know what I mean, there still was my sisters.
Okay. Now, your first 21 fights you won.
Yeah.
What's that like, and how do you stay focused and not let the ego take over? What was that whole process like in your late teens, early 20s?
Sometimes I'm a practical guy. I don't really let things excite me or go to my head or whatever. I train very, very hard. Having 21 fights, it was nice having 21 fights, but sometimes you got to go and someone's got to hit you back. And I did have a couple of fights where someone did hit me back. I had to dig deep and see if I had the bottle, the determination, the will to go forward. But yeah, it was nice winning them early fights. When you go into the ring, it's a different temple that you got to go into, which you don't know how you're going to come out. But when you go in there, it's not like football, it's not like cricket, it's not like rugby, it's not like snooker or whatever. You go in there to take the guy out or be taken out yourself.
What do you like before you go into the ring? Do you get nervous? Do you get quiet? Some guys throw up. Some guys are calm. What were you like before you went into the ring?
Just, it's either him or me. You know what I mean? And go in there, train very, very hard, get yourself very, very fit, and hit him before he hits you. I learnt my trade the hard way because I didn't learn about survival. Sometimes in life you learn tricks of holding and if you get hurt, go down on one knee. I didn't know. All I did was train to get very, very strong, very, very fit. Went in there and just went from round one, come back and go in there, learn how to pace and get some rhythm and bob and weave and whatever. You learn them things later on. But I was very, very raw, very, very keen, very, very eager, not listening to certain different skills through life. You know what I mean? If you get hurt and you wobble, spit out your gum shield, let the referee stop the fight or go down on one knee or things like that. You learn through life after you do. But I was just, you know what I mean? Like, what can I say? If you get a girlfriend or something like that, you just bam, 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 bam. Rather just take your time and pace yourself. You last a little bit more longer. I didn't have that experience through later on through my life.
Do you think that's why people love watching you fight, because you just put it all on the line?
I did put it all on the line, but I shouldn't have put it all on the line. I should have learned a few more tricks here and there, got a little bit more experience through the amateur. I only had 21 amateur fights, but I'm not making no excuses. I had a good innings, 45 fights, lost 5, and I had no complaints whatsoever. I made history. I won the world championship. I only had it for 5 minutes, but I'd done what I had to do, so I have no complaints at all.
You said for that world championship in '95, you said sometimes you kind of take your mind back there and you can hear Nigel Benn shouting your name in the stands, and you can remember what it was like. What was it like to win that, at Wembley with all of that on the line and all of those people there and Nigel in the crowd? What do you remember from that?
I remember everything what was to remember about it. I had 3 attempts or 4 attempts. First, I lost to Bum Crusher Smith, which I had 21, 22 fights. I was beating him up until about 8th round. Unfortunately, my head got in the wrong place and he stopped me, but the best thing that could have happened to me is him stopping me to make me go back to the drawing board and learn my trade the nice sort of like way. Then I went in against Tim
Is that a hard
Witherspoon.
lesson to learn, that sometimes the losses are the right thing at the right time?
I think in life you've got to lose before you win. You can't win all the time and not knowing what it's like to lose. You know what I mean? You can't get money without not having money. You know what I mean? So if you have no money and you get a little bit of money, you've got to know what it's like to, let it last and pace yourself out. So winning all the time in life, nobody should win all the time. Some days you've got to have bad days and good days. Everybody, whether it's royal family, whether you're built with a silver spoon in your mouth, you've got to know what it's like to lose and to take a beating and know what it's hard to know about hardship.
Right. And so that time he stopped you was a good thing.
Yeah, good thing.
And so from there, you went back to the drawing board.
Went back to the drawing board. Sometimes a lot of people, when they lose, they can't get their confidence up. They get a little bit gun shy, and they can't get their head and the things back together. But the more I lost, the more determined I got, and the more I stuck to my guns.
Right. And so then you went back, fought for the title a few more times, and then finally got it.
But yeah, definitely. Later on in my life, I got it. But yeah, I achieved my dream.
It must have been an epic night there.
Very, very unbelievable night, you know what I mean? Because I was like a cat. You have 7 lives, but that was my last, you know what I mean, seventh sort of like life. If I didn't get it then, I don't know where. And it was good that Frank Warren came on board. He was connected to Don King. Don King had Oliver McCall. Oliver McCall knocked out Lennox Lewis, gave me the opportunity of fighting for the title. So it was unbelievable, unbelievable night, and the crowd was nice and everything went down smooth.
What's the boxing game like? Because it's not only you have to be the best, but you also have to be the best businessman and be in the right place at the right time to make those things happen. Because you've seen people that have been great boxers that had bad careers, probably. How did you learn how to do all of that?
I had a good a teacher in Terry Lawless, Mickey Duff, Jarvis Astaire, Mike Barrett. I've not fell out, I left them and learned, but I had a good accountant, efficiency in Marks, a guy called Milton Marks. I had good lawyers and I had a good team around me at the time.
And you had a vision, which was you wanted to be the champion, you wanted to make money, this was going to be a career.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is different, because some guys start fighting because they like fighting. And you're more, you always were a businessman.
I don't know if I was a businessman, but boxing is business with blood. But I had a good team, I was a good listener, and I had good people around me. So I let them do their business and let me do my business. It's a business, it is a business with blood, boxing. And boxers are getting a bit more smarter now of looking after and promoting themselves than, you know what I mean, dropping it a different way. It's a different era now. Boxers are talking about millions of pounds that they're getting, which are getting millions with the pay-per-view and different bits and pieces. But if you got character, if you got charisma, and you could put bums on seats and get viewing figures, like it was a BBC at the first when I started, then I ended up with Sky. But yeah, you got to be a little bit different than, you know what I mean, Harry?
I had Chris Eubank here and Nigel Benn, who I know is a friend of yours, and they were talking about their rivalry back in the day. And they were talking about how British boxing, kind of in the 80s and maybe early 90s, was a different animal. It would be on free television. Everybody would be talking about these fights. The whole country would watch them. Can you take me back and tell me, what was boxing like back then when you fought in the 80s and the 90s?
It was unbelievable, you know what I mean? Sometimes if you go to the press conferences, you had every single paper there. It was on the television, it was on ITV. ITV would compete with BBC, and everybody knew you, and everybody watched it, and everybody, the Barry McGuigan, Steve Collins, Nigel Benn, Chris Eubanks, Clinton McKenzie, you had Charlie McGray, you had Maurice Hope, you had so many different fighters then that not saying boxing ain't boxing, but in them days it was unbelievable. Good fun. You know, if you went abroad somewhere to Europe, if you went to Vegas, you had so many reporters and that characters, you know what I mean, Peter Batt, the Frescoes, etc., etc. Them days were very, very, very good, very funny, because all of them had lyrics and all of them were Colin Harts and of the Sun, and it was a beautiful time which I don't think could be beaten.
What's it like being that famous?
What's it like being that famous?
What's it like being that famous?
I don't class myself as being famous. I'm no more famous than you are famous. I'm on a level as what you are, what the cameraman is, what the voice man is, what the photographer man is, what the lady that we met, took me up here. I'm just on a level. I'm just a ducker and diver. So I don't class myself as being famous. You know what I mean?
But in the 80s and 90s, when you go to Vegas, people know who you are. And that must be a strange life to lead. It goes to some people's heads.
It can be a strange life to lead, but I'm no more different than anybody else. You know what I mean? Like, in a way, famous, and so what if I'm famous? But I'm human. I'm normal. I'll go to the toilet. If you kick me out, if that dog was to bite me, I would, you know what I mean? I would draw blood, so I'm no more different, whether you want to class me as being famous, but famous is only a word.
This is your mother and your father and your upbringing, probably, that kept you grounded.
Everything you got being in life, in grounded and focus and level, and I'm famous, and
Right. And then what?
So what do
You
you
say
mean? Then what?
you say you're famous, and then
yeah. What?
Yeah.
Famous?
It doesn't go anywhere. You just you need to just be yourself again.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had 2 epic bouts with Mike Tyson. I was wondering if you
Yeah.
could just tell us what that was like, because in '89, you know, he was coming up, and then you were coming up too. And I was just wondering, what do you remember about that time? It's a long time ago.
A long time ago. I remember going to Vegas. I remember going to the Catskill Mountains when Customado was alive. I was 19 and Mike Tyson was 15, and we spent about 2-3 weeks together up Customado at Gleason's gym before you was born, before anybody, you know what I mean, when the gyms were training camp they had up there. And we spent a lot of time together.
Wow.
Then after a while, we got to fight one another. The fight was supposed to be in London, got postponed and got driven to Las Vegas, but trained very, very hard, tried to get myself to knock him out or whatever, wobbled him, and unfortunately I got beaten, as simple as that.
How did you get to train with Customado? How did you know that connection? Because
Mickey Duff, Jarvis Astaire, I think the Jewish connection with Gleason's and America and Customado, and Mickey Duff knew a lot of people, Johnny Boss, and they just got together, you know what I mean, youngsters trying to, you know what I mean, get through the ranks in boxing, knew each other, spar against each other, and we went around the whole of America getting experience and just come together.
what's that like, 19 years old, going to America to train?
It was unbelievable, you know what I mean, because the best place I went in America was Huntington Beach, California. The people were so cool, so laid back and whatever. We went to Arizona, went to Vegas, went to Chicago, went all over America, and it was just an eye-opener, you know what I mean? Because Americans drop it differently, but when they party, they're so relaxed and boasty and cool, and it was just a great experience. For me, being a youngster, it was the most beautifulest time of my life, you know. It was very amazing place, America. Amazing, different characters, but the best place was Huntington Beach.
Customado, what was he like? You know, I watched these old videos on YouTube of him training Mike Tyson, the relationship they had, which was much as like a father and son as I've ever seen. What was it like being there in the Catskills, and what kind of boxing trainer was he?
He was a very, I don't know, you must have a favourite uncle that you listen to or admire, or sometimes you listen to your dad, what advice he gives you. But he was just a guy that everything he talked about had a lyric, had a meaning to whatever he talked about. He was a guy that could sit down and imagine and fantasize years in advance than what you could imagine and look. He was just like a don, and when you sit down and whatever he said, you listen and took on board because he whatever he said made sense. He was I don't know, like a prophet, like your great grandfather, like your great uncle, but he just a visionist, just a very knowledgeable guy. Some people you can sit down and chat to and know that they're talking about, and think that they've been through. Like I've talked to you earlier before on the camera, and you're on point. You meditate, you keep yourself together, you go to the gym, and you're on point. And I admire that and I respect that. But when you talk to people, some people talk hibbery-jibbery and they don't make much sense. But when someone like Customado talks, or similar like yourself talk, you listen and not try and nick little bits and pieces out of there, take advice and put that into your armory. And he was that sort of like guy. I could listen to him for about a year, constantly just every day sitting at the table, listening or chucking something at him, and the advice that he gives you, that you try and put on board to whatever you need to do.
Did he have a vision for you? What did he used to tell you?
I couldn't remember certain different things that he used to tell me, but you know what I mean? The style what I had, he used to say, bend your legs, relax a little bit more, and you'll get more power. But his concern was more Mike Tyson. he's Mike Tyson's man, but he was a very, very generous and kind man in anything that he talked about. He didn't talk nonsense, he talked sense.
Right, and a kind of a softer spoken guy, right? With just
very, very softer spoken guy, but he's been through, I don't know where he was brought up. He must have been brought up in New York, and he had a lot of seasoning. He had a lot of experience. He had a lot of knowledge. He had a lot of common sense, but he could think years above what we could predict and what we could see. You know, I mean, he's a very, very powerful guy. He must have read. There must have been books out there before we even thought about it, but he must have been in for a lot of experience, or his dad or his grandparents or what he's been through in life. He used that as an experience, and he was the master.
Yeah, he was famous for having that whole library of old film on boxers.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
And I know Mike Tyson used to watch constantly old boxers, Marciano, boxers from 30, 40 years,
definitely,
and mimic their styles.
Yeah.
And if you watch the way Cuss would train Mike, he would kind of let Mike spar a couple rounds in the ring, and he'd come over and he would just kind of quietly whisper a few things to him. He never yelled at Mike, never said, "You got to do this." He would just go, "Okay, well, why don't we try this?" Again, like you said, someone you need to listen to.
Yeah.
And I know Mike also said he just gave him lots of confidence. You know,
sometimes people do give you confidence if you're willing to listen. Sometimes in life we're all human beings and we learn things through life, but a lot of people have got different lyrics, different ways and different personas how they go about things. And sometimes if you can go to a psychologist, go to someone that's gone through life and has going through life and learning skills and proper skills and different things to empower you. You know what I mean? You can only sit down, like you go to seminars where a professor or a psychologist will sit down there and they'll have about 2,005 people talking about life and different things. You sit down there and you come out there and you're very, very enlightening and very, very powered, and people like Casamado, you just wish there was more people like that around.
Yeah. When you went to fight Mike, were you thinking back to those days when you trained, or was that had been 10 years earlier, right?
Yeah, it would have been 10 years earlier, but he developed and he got bigger and different things like that, and the media, the way he exploded, it was different. But I remembered him when I was sparring with him, and you know what I mean?
You must have been bigger than him when you sparred with him at 19 versus
I was
50.
bigger than him, but it's amazing how he got bigger than me in certain different parts. He didn't get taller, but that's the way it goes. I went in there, trying my best, no excuses. I lost the fight.
Did he try intimidating you? Because that used to be kind of his MO, the stare downs and things like that. Or
I wasn't really intimidated by him at all. When you've sparred with someone when you're 19 and he's 15 and whatever, I think the people around him were trying to intimidate people because he had a lot of hangers on and people shouting out different things and making funny phone calls at night time, so they used the intimidation. But he, toe to toe, clip for clip, eye to eye, it wasn't intimidated by him at all.
Yeah, you don't seem like a guy that would be intimidated in the ring.
I think if it was a crocodile, if he had a gun or a machine gun, there was a football crowd of about 100 against one, I think I may be intimidated. I'm not going to lie to you, but 1-to-1, you know what I mean? When you got trained to be a boxer, you go in there, Mike Tyson, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, you go in there to try and, it's war. And sometimes you come out of war victoriously, sometimes you don't come out of fight not victoriously, but when you go in there, it's business boxing, you know what I mean? Any fighter will tell you that. It's clip for clip, toe to toe, punch to punch, and you don't take no business. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What was it like seeing him 7 years later? How would you both changed as fighters?
What, in the second fight you're talking about?
Yeah, second fight with Tyson.
I got older. I had a detached retina from Oliver McCall from the first fight, so it was just messy.
Which means
confusing.
things are blurry and double vision.
Very double vision.
Did you know you had the detached retina?
From the first round, I thought Oliver McCall had the detached retina, but I'm a boxer, I'm a fighter, I had a family and I had bread to put on the table, so how I got through it, God only knows.
The second Tyson fight?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And had he changed as a fighter?
I think he'd been in prison. He had a lot of different characters around him and whatever, so I don't know as he changed as the fighter. He wasn't the same Mike Tyson that I knew, you know what I mean, or whatever, but he still beat me, so no excuses at all. No, for me to sit down and disrespect him and say, was he the same Mike Tyson? I think you may have to ask him that question.
Yeah, I'll ask him at some point. Have you seen the movie about him? And he's moved on in his life and done the one-man show. And I mean, when you see the movie about him and his life in the boxing, I mean, what resonates with you?
I haven't seen the movie. Okay. I've seen some 1 or 2 movies about him and the people, his one-man show and different things like that. But he's got a good wife behind him now. He's got kids and he's got a structure about his life, but people make mistakes. We all make mistakes. He's doing what he's got to do. He's got himself together and he's juggling and he's hustling and he's you know what I mean, just trying to put food on the table for his family.
Yeah, staying busy. That's important.
It's most important is staying busy and focused and keep yourself on the level,
Yeah. Lennox Lewis, you fought him in '93. What do you remember about that bout? 2 hugely popular Britons fighting for that title. What do you remember?
I remember a lot about the fight. I was beating him up until I got caught and I got stopped and he won the fight.
And how does that feel to be in that kind of a transition point in the fight? And do you remember every round?
I remember every round, yeah, definitely. I was in there as the referee, Lennox Lewis and myself. So yes, I remember every single round that I went in there with, but unfortunately I lost the fight. As simple as that. No excuse, no should have done this, should have done that. Trained very, very hard at Champ Leagues. No, I didn't go to Champ Leagues that fight. I wish I would have gone to Champ Leagues, but trained very, very hard, but unfortunately I lost the fight.
And when that happens, how do you process a loss? Are you one that's good about moving on, back to the drawing board? How does that?
I had no choice but to move on, you know what I mean? Sometimes in life, we win, we lose, we use our defeat or sadness to make us get stronger. And I had no choice but to go back to the drawing board, train very, very hard, and try to get myself back in the position that I wanted to win the title that I wanted to get. It was a WBC title. The fortunate thing for me, I linked up with Frank Warren. Frank Warren was partners with Don King. Oliver McCall knocked out Lennox Lewis in the 2nd round, and it gave me an opportunity to have my last chuck at the dice.
Do you think, would it be harder to retire without having won that title?
It would have been very, very hard, because sometimes when you look at yourself in the mirror, you're happy, and sometimes, you know what I mean, I would look at myself, I didn't achieve what I wanted to achieve, and my determination, my will, my focus, my survival instinct wouldn't have been happy with myself, but I achieved my dream, so I'm very, very contented and humble and grateful.
Last fight with Tyson, you injure your eye again, re-injuring that eye. Was it difficult to say that's the time I'm going to call it quits?
I had to call it quits because I had a detached retina and I couldn't really fool no one but myself, and having something flickering in your eye for 6-7 months beforehand, and it was every day was a struggle.
Blessing in disguise now that you
Sorry?
was it a blessing in disguise that you had a firm reason you had to stop? Because a lot of guys will come back and then they'll come back for the wrong reasons.
I had a long career from when I was 16, and I had a dream and I had a vision, and I was on a long road, and I trained very, very hard, put a lot into it, and you know what I mean, I think it was time for me to retire at that time. Sometimes you go through life and you get exhausted and not fed up, but you know what I mean, there's only so much you can get up and drive yourself, and I wasn't a guy that cut any corners. I was very, very in the gym after fights, and when the trainers were trying to kick me out the gym, and I was just there with just trying, working on my strength, working on my skill, working on my moves and whatever. So it was the right time to retire.
What's life like after fighting?
My trainer, George Francis, told me that the biggest fight of your life is going to be when you retire. I didn't know what he was talking about, where he was talking about, but when you having a life, going around the world, going to training camps, meeting this, having press conferences, fan, this, that, never knows what, and then it comes down, it's not a nice place.
Right. Not a nice place to be retired.
Not a nice place to be retired, but sometimes if you retire and get yourself into training, get yourself into, which I've retired and I've done pantomime, I've done different shows, so I was grateful and appreciative that I could duck and dive, but it weren't the same as when you was boxing.
Because it kept you in a constant state of busyness, training, press. I mean, you're constantly thinking about the next fight. All of a sudden, you retire, and it's kind of like a black hole.
Very, very black hole, you know what I mean? You come home, I was away from the kids quite a lot. You and your wife are not listening to the same radio station. You have a breakup, you go through all days. It was messy, it weren't nice, but you know what I mean? I'm still here now. You go through a bad patch, you go through a rocky day, you just got to take it on the chin. I'm still alive, I'm still healthy, I can still put food on the table, and there were the bad days, but sometimes through your life you go through good days, some days you go through a bad day, you know what I mean? But I've got my kids, I still speak to them, and they're healthy. My daughter's having a grandchild, which I can't wait for Rachel to get through, and I'm happy, happier place than I've ever been for a long time.
Talk to us about bipolar disorder, because I think most people don't understand it. And you know, in 2003, when the public kind of found out that there was, you know, something going on with you and mental illness, and you know, in the woods and these kinds of things, can you tell what happened in 2003 and how did you learn about this yourself?
Bipolar, I don't really not understand bipolar too much. People say bipolar is the mood change and whatever you go through, you know what I mean? But I can't really understand bipolar. Some days you feel lethargic, sometimes you feel energetic, sometimes you spend a lot of money on different things. It reacts to everybody in different way. There's some people who's got high bipolar, what are very, very dangerous people, but bipolar, I think you might have to talk to a professor or a doctor about bipolar, but sometimes bipolar is not a nice thing.
Okay, and so you just have to deal with it on a day-by-day basis?
I deal with it by day basis. The talk, what we had before, that I go to the gym, I try and look after myself. I thank God that I've got Champley's there. I thank God I've got a 24 hours gym near me. So I go to the gym, I try and keep my brain, I meditate a little bit, a lot, watch what I eat, and try and look after myself and keep focused, you know?
Okay, and that's how you can kind of keep your mind on.
Yeah, definitely. You've got to look after your tank, look after your engine, look after your body, look after your mind. You know what I mean? I think, you know what I mean, keep yourself on a nice structure and a pattern, and keep, you know what I mean, focused and recharging yourself, meditating and keeping yourself on the straight level.
Right. What happened in 2003, and what did the public not understand about what happened?
I can't remember, 2003, when
so the Sun said, you know, that they took you away and took you to the hospital and found you walking through the woods.
Yeah.
You know, what happened there?
Walking through the woods, I had a breakdown, a nervous breakdown. And when I mean, you may have kids, you may have a wife, but I wouldn't like you to go through a breakup and not seeing your kids. When I couldn't see my kids for a while and having a breakup, I just had a nervous breakdown.
Okay. And what happens after that? Did they check you into a hospital?
I've got sections. I've got put into a hospital and I've got sections.
What's that like when someone tells you that you now need to go to this place? I mean, is your first reaction to say, I feel fine? And then what is that like to process that?
It's not a nice place at all. You go to being sectioned, you've been filled with all different injections, zombified, monged out, crazy, and doctors trying to say, you got to take these tablets for the rest of your life, and saying you got this, you got that. But it wasn't a nice place to be. It wasn't a nice place. It was the horriblest place on hell to be quite honest. But I got sectioned 3 times, and it was one of the worst times of my life.
And it's bad because the other inmates, because of the doctors, but mostly because of the medications. You don't like the medications.
I don't like the medication at all, you know what I mean? Some countries you hear of dictate what people watch, dictate what people do or whatever. But the system, when they take you through medication, and a lot of people are out on medication, or on medication, and they can't get out of the hole what they're in.
Continue watching this fascinating conversation for free by clicking on the link below to visit our website, and I'll see you on the inside.
I'm just a guy from South London where I had good parents that taught me manners, discipline and focus.